Nicholas Diaz writes, greetings and salutations, sons of AMC. I'm a little upset it doesn't say sons and daughters. Just throwing it out there. My question is about epic films of yesterday and today. What is it about the old-time epics like Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, Lawrence of Arabia, etc.? They looked and felt epic and grand. Why can't the films of my generation translate on the big screen like those did? What is the difference? Is it technology's fault? Please explain to me what it is. Am I just crazy? Thank you for your time.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. You're right. I mean, I had this discussion with somebody a few months ago too. When you look at a lot of these old films that you're mentioning, whether it's a Ben-Hur, especially Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, the original Spartacus, Cleopatra, these types of things. When these guys wanted to make epics back then, you couldn't get a sound stage, shoot a bunch of it there, and then digitally matte paint in a lot of stuff, which I mean, today's artists do a great job with. You had to go and rent a small country. You had to go and get 5,000 extras, put them all in costume, get them on there, and it felt, you're right, when you watch these old movies, these epic types, it felt epic, it felt global, it felt huge and wide and vast and just all-encompassing, and that's what part of the magic that they had back then that makes it very difficult to repeat today or to capture today. When I watch that original Spartacus, or Lawrence of Arabia, or Bridge on the River Kwai, or films like that, there's just a certain, I'm not saying I like the films of that era better, I'm not saying that at all, but there's something about them that films today just cannot recapture. And this isn't a condemnation or a commentary on the digital world we live in now, using digital effects, not at all, but there was something about getting 10,000 extras to wander across the desert and to shoot it that way. That's it. Look, you look at the original Transformers film, right? What is the big global battle that happens? On a side street in Los Angeles. I mean, that's where the big global battle, even in Avengers, my favorite comic book movie of all time, right? The world is at stake. In this one battle in this, 5 square blocks in New York, where apparently bullets kill the invading aliens. You never felt like this was a global, worldwide thing. Hey, for all the knocks on Independence Day felt global.
Roland's films, Emmerich's films feel epic.
Emmerich actually captures some of that, so I'll give that to Emmerich on that. But yeah, I think that's part of it, is that, there's just no replacing 10,000 extras. Anyway, that's how I see it. Amy Rose, what do you think?
Yeah, I do think that, I don't know, audiences have just become a lot smarter now, and we're less impressed because of technology.
It's true. And,
it really is a beautiful testament of where we are and how much we've evolved, but it's also a bit of a disservice because, when CGI was so, in the beginning, it was so cheesy, but there was just a sense of nostalgia with that. And now it's just seamless at times. And if it's not, I mean, we're pulling it apart. I thought Thor felt pretty epic. And that is also because Alan Taylor wanted to shoot on location. And I think that, I mean, you cannot fake a soundstage versus shooting on location. You can feel it. And I think the audience has just wised up. Not to mention, I mean, there were really no crazy effects in Ben-Hur in all those classes you're talking about. So it was a lot more raw. And I feel like that really translates to the audience and the audience experience. But I do think there are other filmmakers. I just think we've become really spoiled in this generation, and it takes a lot more to impress us, which is kind of sad, which is why filmmakers like James Cameron are constantly pushing the envelope and trying new forms of technology and new forms of how we know film, to be brought to us. So yeah, it's kind of a trick question. I think it's a great question, but I think it just comes down to technology and ever-evolving landscape and just how spoiled we are now.
Well, I agree with you both, but I also think storytelling has changed. I mean, the way cuts happen, now we're so used to like, hey, what's up with this 7-second shot? I mean, people need those edits. You're even told like you have to have a cut every 3.5 to 4 seconds. That's regular television style. I mean, when you're pushing it, you're like, hey, I'm doing this really long push. It's 15 seconds. People start to freak out. Someone's going to change the channel. When you're talking about films, they're given a little bit more time to breathe. But storytelling back then was more epic. Basically, those stories were told in a better and bigger, more epic fashion. And I don't think it had anything to do with special effects. It's more so the filmmakers and the ability to get a big, giant movie made. I think there's a lot more complicated things that happen nowadays where people are like audience testing and just different things are done now than it was back, 30, 40 years ago. So filmmaking has changed, but it's also storytelling. I mean, Peter Jackson, his use of massive, this 3D effect with where you can have 100 like little digital dudes, thousands of them all running. He used that the best in Lord of the Rings, where you had these, because they're actually, the storytelling was key. It wasn't about special effects. It was like, how do we communicate 10,000 people fighting 10,000 people with a massive, wide, epic shot where you see all these little tiny people running towards each other? That makes it epic. Versus a lot of other movies where you just have a million CGI baby creatures jumping around with fast cuts. You're like, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Like World War Z, all the
I mean, there's so many movies we could list off. It's like where, it's supposed to be epic, but it feels like you're just like, while you're eating popcorn, you're like, I can't wait to get out of here. It doesn't have that staying power, or the shots have to be really thought out. So I think that comes with proper storytelling and great directors. So I think we still have those people that are making great big films. It's just it's not as prevalent because we have a lot of other films that just kind of get in the way of our minds currently.
I think that's why Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity took off the way it did. Not because of the story, because let's be honest, the story wasn't that amazing, but it was because of the detail and the shots. I mean, literally every time, the sun positioning and planet, like the light and the sound, and he just crushed that. So that felt very epic in space because of his details.
I would say the storytelling is, though, because it is such a small movie. That even that is epic to me. It's not about a big army fighting another army. It's about one person trying to survive in outer space. That's frightening. So
just the visuals were just
the
visuals
were incredible.
I literally, when the first sequence opened, I was like, oh, we're in space now. It gave me a little anxiety. But we have them, but they're not as dominant anymore.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news, and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.